Welcome back to Inspired Inc., the CWS podcast, a show where we promote indie comic creators and become inspired by what they create and their journey of creating. I'm your host, Brandon Bloxdorf, and today, once again, we're taking a little holiday break from our regularly scheduled programming to end the year with a couple of panels from our CWS Virtual Con that we held in August. And to wrap up the year, we have a panel about publishing and printing with CWS featuring Cosmic Lion Productions, Next Panel Press, Alex Batts, and the Comic Unknown. Enjoy the show, and we'll see you next week for a brand new Inspired Inc.
Everybody, welcome back to the Comix Wellspring Virtual Con. We are moving and shaking. Thank you all for hanging with us. We know this is a full day. Hopefully you all will go back to the replay. If you missed something, then rewind. Be kind and rewind, okay? So that's such a Gen X thing to do and say. Most people don't know what I'm talking about, but Blockbuster forever. So we're here today. We're going to be talking about publishing, specifically with CWS, Lesser Known Comics, Apollo City Comics, and Next Panel Press, and Comic Unknown. And so we have some special guests in the building, and we have Rick Lopez, who is part of Cosmic Lion Productions and Next Panel Press. And also we have Jorge Alvarez from Comics Unknown, publisher, and he is a writer. So we're excited to have these two creatives here. Alex Batts, as usual, and Brandon Bloxdorf, also a part of this conversation. You all know me. I'm Oz in the background, chilling. So I will see you on the flip side. Y'all have a great time. Peace.
Just started this whole episode, this whole entire room, just like start speaking in Spanish and start tripping people out. We have the most Mexican cast out of any sort of panel we've done so far. And I'm a Wiener Schnitzel, I'm German and Mexican, and then we have Alex.
And then I'm just painfully white, which is it's okay.
Gentlemen, good seeing you. Alex is here repping Lesser Known Comics. He's gonna talk a lot in detail about that. Great friend Rick Lopez, who we got to hang out with at Heroes. Am I seeing you at Terrificon? Are we hanging out? Am I seeing you again this year?
No, I didn't even. I heard about that one too late.
Well, I'll probably see you at what? I don't know what's next for us.
The next thing I'm at is SPX.
I'll see you at SPX. Okay.
Oh,
I'm at least swinging by there. Yeah. I'll be swinging by there for a day. Cool. Rad. Super. I've seen Rick all year. He's done some custom art for me. Super rad dude. If you guys have not checked out any of his work, swing by the Cosmic Lion booth or the Next Panel Press booth, where he's repping both. Actually just doing two hats today, which is super exciting. And then amazing Jorge Alvarez. Dude, we had you on Apollo, correct? Yeah,
that's last year.
Back when we were still doing all that.
It was with the Exit to Z with the first book.
Mm-hmm.
That was right at the beginning. Man, I was still dipping my toe into everything.
That's right. Yeah, that was like pre-Alex too, I think.
Yeah, I was about to say I wasn't even. Yeah,
I was with
I was on the
Brandon.
show.
Yeah, with Moncada. Yeah, when we were doing that stuff. Dude, it's super exciting to see where everyone's gone and been over the last year and a half since we've been doing a lot of that. And especially with the transition and running like a publishing house. You know what I mean? Running your own imprint is like a really insane thing to do and consider. And it's one of those things where you need to find your resources. You're a business. You're not even just making comics anymore. You're becoming an entity. You're becoming a business where you're interacting with, making deals with, how you're printing your comics, where you're getting supplies, how you're helping creators, all sorts of stuff. And it's such a grind when all we ever wanted to do was write or draw comics in general. And even for Alex, Alex, tell us a little bit in detail on what you do for Lesser Known Comics right now and Apollo City while you're at it at that point.
Yeah. I think you described it perfectly at the end where it's I just wanted to write some comics, and now I'm involved in so much more than just that, where I'm I still gotta find time to carve out the writing for the comics. So yeah, for both, I basically do kind of the same thing for both Lesser Known Comics and Apollo, in that I just help with a lot of the back end organizational stuff. It's really tedious work, but I like building systems and management systems and organizing files and things like that, and can reach out to people and be okay, make sure that. So for instance, Lesser Known Comics, recently we had our August pre-sale, pre-order like new releases come out, because we're trying to move away from doing Kickstarters every month and having like 20 different Kickstarters happening. And like we've got all these creators that have all these books that are ready, like they're just trying to get them out there and get them for sale. And so we're putting them all together and they go live for pre-order at the same time. And so it's like, okay, we've got to manage and make sure we have all of the information for all the books and all of the right files and everything uploaded and processed on the site properly, and everyone's on the same page, and like just all the little things that go into that, and making sure that it can run smoothly and do that. So it's just like that kind of stuff, really, where it's just helping make things run smoothly and like keeping in touch with people, and I don't know, just like things like that. I struggle with this a lot, kind of, because I like am not entirely sure how to explain a lot of the stuff that I do a lot of the time. I'm like, I don't know, I just work on a lot of this stuff and do different things. It's a weird kind of nebulous thing where you're doing, it's just a large variety of things that have to happen. And a bunch of projects are always at different stages of that too. Like, not, if you have like 4 or 5 books that are happening, or however many it might be, like they're not all going to be at the exact same point in their production process, to put it in those terms. And so it's being able to keep track of what's going on with this book, what's going on with this creator, what's going on with everything as a whole. How can we plot this out and make this work? How are we making it to where like everyone's not tired, right, and like over stressed or doing whatever, because it's also a lot of like effort and time on everyone's part to do this. And as you were saying, we all just want to write comics or draw comics or whatever for fun and because we enjoy it, and it's a thing that we love doing. And so it's like just balancing those things and trying to work with people and do that kind of stuff. And then yeah, still carve out the time to actually make the comics. But I think that was an answer.
No, 100%. It's and I know firsthand you do so much for Apollo. Like it's keeping it alive and functional. You know what I mean? There's one part where you're just creating, but there's another part where you're like, I need to put this into play to make connections and network. And that's a whole process with things. And Rick, like you're involved with Cosmic Lion and Next Panel Press. One, how did you get involved with both these publishing houses? And like, what is your involvement with each one of them? Because I know they do differ from one another.
Well, with Next Panel Press, I'm the co-founder. Me and Craig CK got it started, got the ball rolling in 2021. So it has been going a few years now. But with Next Panel Press, it's definitely a lot more hands-on. I basically handle all the social media stuff. I post everyone's shit. I post all the stories. I make sure they're all collected together so people can come to the Instagram and they can read all the stories in their entirety. Like Ryan Tavares, his Nomads just finished, so you could go read that first volume of Nomads in the story highlights, or different things like that. Different years of Cosmic Cats on there. With Cosmic Lion, I work with Eli a lot, but it's definitely a lot less hands-on. I leave a lot of that stuff to Eli, but I definitely try to help promote it. I try to help show like what we're doing all together and everything. And then I've done a bunch of different I've done a handful of different pages and stuff for the books that Eli's published so far, but we have something coming out together next year, like more direct. But mostly with Next Panel Press, it's like I'm Eli in Next Panel Press, and then in Cosmic Lion, like I just get to be me, and I get to just hang out, do my thing, and do what I can do to help. But nothing. They're definitely very different roles for sure.
I think that's like Alex, how he's like co-founder of Apollo City Comics publishing, but then he helps out lesser known comics with some stuff, but not like as like not as involved. Exactly.
Right.
And Jorge, dude, Comic Unknown. I mean, you began with Exodus Z. How did you go about like just declaring and coming and working, discovering Comic Unknown in general? Like, when did that come into fruition?
Comic Unknown started off as a blog spot. This was around 2012. I was doing what you were doing. Just getting in there, reaching out to creators. They were like, "Hey, can I review your book?" And I'll throw some Q&As at them, and they'll respond. Had a couple cool people in there, and I did that. I was spitting out a review like every 2 weeks or every week and a half for like a year and a half straight. Then I realized, shit, I need a breather. So I started spreading them out a little bit, little by little. And then after speaking to so many creators and just seeing all these ideas and this just everything that's going on with meeting creators, doing interviews, reviewing books, I was just like, and there has to be, I have to have an idea. I have to figure something out. I need to put my foot in there. Um, and in 2020, right when around the time when COVID hit, I was just watching a lot of Netflix. So I was watching a lot of everything that was available. And there was this, I always forget the name, and every single interview I do the same thing. There's this zombie show, I don't remember if it's Korean or Japanese, where it's like these school kids and they're trying to escape. I think it's called All Over So Dead or something along those lines. And I was watching it with my wife, and there's a part where one of the students is like praying, and I made a joke saying, "Wouldn't it be funny, she dies, whatever, she opens up her eye, she's in heaven, only to see another zombie apocalypse." And then I started thinking about it, and I was like, "Wait." I did my research. I started looking around. And I was like, "How's this not already made?" I kept on looking around. I would see pinups for like zombie angels. And I was like the generic pinups here and there, but an actual storyline of getting the zombie apocalypse into the gates of heaven, I couldn't find it. And I just started putting pen to paper, started figuring out, made myself a rough draft, then redrafted the rough draft, and then redrafted the rough draft until like I was at like draft 27, and I was like, okay, I think I got a script. Reached out to a couple friends of mine that are in the creator community. One of them was Rob Anderson. He used to have a website called Creator Written Sins. And he reached out to a couple people, and he actually introduced me to my artist, John Apple. And we just kicked it off. That was already 2022 at that point. And we had the book in Kickstarter. It funded. We had two covers, the main cover, which is this one back here, and then a second cover by John Sakokatsis. Everything went great. And we then did a third cover with Jay Redden, which, he's part of the lesser known comics community. And he was cool with it. And we did a cover, did it on Indiegogo. We funded again. And I was like, man, this isn't that hard. I could probably figure out something more complicated and convoluted. No, nothing like that. But it worked out. So then I thought maybe I can create something bigger. And that's with the campaign that I'm in now, which is called Phantasmagoria. It's an anthology, horror anthology, over a dozen creators. I think the final tally within the 9 stories that we have in there, it's about 15 creators. And then on top of that, I think we had like another 4 or 5 creators that did like little pinups for us. So it's this massive piece of book. 2-3 days ago, we just finished finishing the digital copy of it. So that huge file, which is like almost a gig in size, we're ready to just send it to a Comix Wellspring at this point, and it'd be like, here, hot potato, your turn, deal with that, and then get that printed out. That campaign also funded successfully, and like I said, it's 9 stories, all horror based, all by indie creators. A lot of names attached to it, and a couple, at some point or another, you're going to recognize at least 1 or 2 names each person. And it's just different creators that I've met throughout my time of reviewing comic books, to most recent as last year, where 2 or 3 of the stories are just people that I met last year, and we just kicked it off. And it's been a crazy journey just putting everything together to publish this anthology.
Man, that's awesome. Yeah, it's such a journey too when you're starting off with just trying to make a book and figure out your footing and everything, and then you realize like it's kind of like a tattoo or like a bad itch. You just like you just roll with the next idea and you realize that that's possible and feasible, and then you roll with the next one and you try to like aim a little higher without even realizing it because like the opportunities are opening up. And I think that's like one of those big things that publishers and creators that are running publishing imprints have to like really understand and figure out. Between all of you, like what do you think is like the most difficult thing about, you know, turning down or like knowing which opportunities are right for you as a creator and as a publisher? I'll ask Rick first. Yeah. So like what's the like just running with two publishing houses, like what opportunities have you had to like balance out or realize that's not for your brand or not?
Honestly, I've had certain people ask me, and like, because usually, like, other than Jesco Morg, there's nobody that's asked that I've been like, oh yeah, you're on. Like Jesco, he came out of nowhere. We didn't know him. He's like, I would love to join you. And this is when we like first started up, and he showed us his strips, and he had like dozens of fully formed stuff. It was like, oh dude, we can't say no to this guy.
Hmm.
And I'm pretty sure he's based in Canada. I know that like predominantly speaks French, and all of his strips were in French. So it's like he started translating them for Next Panel Press. So it was just something really, really interesting. But typically, I reach out myself. Me or Craig will reach out to people we've talked about and things like that. More often than not, like if people like directly ask me, I'm probably not interested. But I hate dealing with that stuff, you know, because it's uncomfortable, that sort of shit. So I just leave it up to like just whenever I feel like it needs to happen. Right now, I definitely feel like we need to bring in some more new people. Like some series have come to an end, you know, and some people need some time. So, yeah, it's time to roll in some new people. I know we have at least one person that's coming in on the next one, so that'll be cool. But Next Panel Press in particular, it can be super stressful because it's like I'm trying to get my own strip done in time, and then I have to juggle everyone else's shit, and like dealing with all the social media stuff is really hard. It's really time consuming. You already know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It's just it makes the whole process like so hard, and like and it goes every other week, and I'm not every week, you know, like I'm every other week too, but every week I'm still like fucking with it. Like tomorrow morning I'm gonna mess with it tomorrow.
Yep.
And it's just, yeah, it can be a lot sometimes. For sure. Fucking sure, a lot.
Dude, I completely understand that. You know, and we were trying to figure out like the roster for like Apollo. And you know, we try to have a very specific, we wanted to differentiate ourselves from lesser known comics. And we wanted to like make sure that there's a flavor there, you know, and not that we, you know, we don't just let anybody in, but we have like requirements in a sense, you know, and it's a vibe, you know, it's how much work has this person put out, how much effort have they put out as a creator themselves. And I think that's a big aspect too, is like, you know, testing creators, because we know how hard it is, and we've all kind of stuck through some of the hardest moments already. Like not everybody can do that, we're finding out, you know. Some people make one book and that's kind of it, and they realize or they just don't know how to do anything or market themselves. And that's the thing about being a publisher and creator too, is that like as a business, like you've got to represent yourself. And as an independent comic creator, you're representing yourself, and yourself is your book, which is your brand. And you got to know how to like spit that out properly and, you know, give it the respect and everything it deserves. And that's a hard thing to do. Not everyone has it down. And some people just need time. They need to like fumble a little bit. They need to like experiment and then see what doesn't work for them, and then actually find their footing and be like, oh, I'm going to stick this through. Like, and once you know that person's going to stick it through and go through all the BS that comes in between, you know, from starting to work on your first page to like production and, you know, fulfillment, like that's a lot to manage and handle. And doing that for multiple people, dude, it can get exhausting too. Like I just did.
That's what I tell people coming in too. It's like, you're gonna be putting out a page every 2 weeks. Like it doesn't sound like that much, you know, but like it can really snowball on you. And like especially if your idea is fucking huge, you know, and like it's like I really try and tell people like just keep it small. Like you could do one panel, you could do one image. You don't have to go crazy. Like Cosmic Cat's eight it's an 8-panel thing. So like every 2 weeks I'm trying to break down these 8 panels. And like sometimes it gets away from me, you know. It's like, dude, I just like, I don't know.
And you're someone that's always working too.
It's
like
yeah, exactly.
Always...
There's always a fucking million things to do, and so like that's just like another thing on top of it. I guess I like this stuff because it's like even like the things I do for fun. I'm like I just like to stress myself out all the time. Like even my like the leisurely things I do, they just stress me the fuck out. But I think I work better this way, I guess. But with Next Panel Press for sure, I think that's another aspect. It's not like some elitist whatever shit. It's like, dude, I need to know that you can do this, because the whole reason, like in the beginning, it was just a couple of us and we were gonna keep going, but then someone like got hurt, someone gets sick. It's like we should bring in a couple other people. So like when we're missing people, it's not, you almost don't notice it, because there's so much going on. And so now it's like, dude, like it's hard for me sometimes to do like every 2 weeks putting out this strip with all the other shit I got going on, and like we're gonna bang the drum for you for at least a year. In a year you get 26 strips. Like you can make a book out of that. We'll bang the drum the whole time. At the end you got a book. So it's like just do the work, but it's hard. I know it's hard as fuck.
But you have a community that helps support it too. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And I find that to be very like helpful, and that's inspiring itself, because Alex firsthand, I got to find like a writing routine, and then he saw I finished a script, and then he's like, dude, I got to get back on my writing. Like I've been so distracted with Apollo and LKC and CWS, and like I've been working on your scripts, and then I haven't even written mine yet. And so then he went and over a weekend just belted out a whole script, and he's like, every day he was like, I need you to edit it, I need you to read it and edit it. And I was just like, all right, got to do it. And we did it over a phone call, and it's like feeding off of other people that are within your circle, I think is just insanely just like beneficial. Yeah,
it changes the game.
John here says, Rick, I want to say I love the concept for your comic of the Power. I tend to like stories about comic mangaka creators. That's really rad. Honestly, the Power is so cool, dude. Like it's
really
one, if you guys haven't, really good stuff. It's a fun job, but still a job. Act like it. Very true, dude. Dude. It's
That's
one of the biggest.
It's a hard thing to do also, and especially whenever you're like, oh, I do this thing because it's fun and it's what I want to do, but also I'm doing it in a capacity where it's like it does have to operate as a job, and there is that element of it, and it's like, oh, this is like, it's fun and it's what I want to be doing, but it's also a responsibility, and like that's a big thing, and you gotta like treat it like that, and that entails a lot of other than sub things and everything that comes with that. But yeah, it's worth it though. It's good.
And Jorge, like, how do you keep on the hat of balancing like not only this, comic imprint and your stories, but like you also have like a family and like a total life balance that you need to work out on top of everything else. Like you're insanely busy. Like where do you actually get the ability to not burn out and keep on going and chasing these bigger endeavors that you're opening up?
Dude, I'm borderline definition of crazy at this point, just because like I said, I have a daughter. I have another one along the way. My wife is already 37 point something weeks pregnant. She straight up told me, I'll leave you a post-it right next to your banner. If you spot it, it just means that we got to go to the hospital. So we had it there in the background now, and we were making the joke the whole time. And I was just like, for the love of God, just relax while I'm doing this interview. Don't do anything crazy. So we made that little joke. But yeah, to the main point, I think I just want to be able to produce, and I just want to be able to put so many things out there. And my mind is just going a mile a minute, maybe even faster. But going to that topic, I'm not 100% certain how I do it. I take it one step at a time. I'm like, okay, I don't even break it down to like numbering it. I just like, I'm going to take care of this. This will be done. I'll deal with the next thing tomorrow. Phantasmagoria, technically, we started that last year. I had sent out the majority of the invites to the people that I wanted to be involved. I think it was even before Thanksgiving or something like that. Gave everybody a vague idea, which was just a horror anthology, 6 to 12 pages, go ham, just let's make sure we get it done. And I think the horror anthology itself almost feels like a publishing company, because now I'm paying attention to 9 different stories, 9 different creations. Originally I was going to do 10, but the 10th one was going to be a second story, which Brandon, I spoke to you about it a long time ago, about an alien invasion in the middle of the night. And I was just like, forget it, cut issue 2. I'll deal with that later. Yep. I can't. Because there's only up to a certain point that you can handle so many things, and until either everything just amalgamates itself and just blends and you start messing up, or I would just burn out at that point. But for the most part, For Phantasmagoria, we just took it step by step. There'll be a specific creator or specific creative team. I'll be bugging them for a straight week, leaving everybody else alone, just constantly checking in, doing everything. Then once I know, okay, they're good, they can handle it. There's no point into me bugging them for like another XYZ time frame. Like, okay, next story. Okay, I'll start talking to them, chit chat with them, give them ideas. Okay, what can we do? This, that, and the other. Okay, next one. And I basically did that 9 times in over 7 months. Don't get me wrong, I'll bounce back and forth. And the original 9 stories isn't even the same 9 stories that are now, because just like how you guys were talking about earlier, you can never expect the unexpected at that point. And there's people that will drop off, and then you try to figure it out. Should I do it with less or should I do it with more? And then somebody else will just jump right in, and we're like, perfect. We'll still keep around the same page count. It still falls under the same idea, the same.
Oh, it was the longest pause. I usually it kicks in
no,
after a second.
it,
Yeah.
it paused for a second the other times.
Oh, let's see. Let's see if he pops back in.
I'm
Oh,
trying
there we
to
go.
make sure. Oh,
There
There
we
he
go.
goes.
Yeah,
Awesome.
now you're set.
Yeah.
Different time zones, different countries, and it's just trying to get everybody, just to get everybody organized, have an idea, see what's the update. Each one of them I have my own Dropbox account with, so I can see when things are coming in, and then essentially I made just like a blank image, and I just numbered it 1 to like 80.
Mhm.
And I was like, okay, I know this will fit here. I know this will fit here. And once they start coming in, I just start replacing the blank image with the actual art itself
Nice.
until we have everything formed. But it's definitely it's definitely crazy. I think not many, well, not to someone's horn or our own horn for the matter of that, but uh, a lot of people will be like, yeah, forget that. No, 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 thank you. That's way too much of an issue. But the way I think of it is that there are amazing creators out there and there are amazing publishers out there, but they can't handle everybody at the same time. So, like for example, lesser known comics, you guys are everywhere now, and it's amazing. But I can only assume you guys could only reach a certain quota before you're gonna have to start denying people. And even with me with Phantasmagoria, it happened the same, where I had 2 or 3 different creators asking me, "Oh, are you guys open to submissions?" And I never even considered or thought about it, an open submission. And I just told them like, issue 1 is already closed. Issue 2, we're going to consider open submissions. We already have like 3 stories already lined up for it. So I know we're working. I know we're already pushing forward. It's just a process.
Yeah. It's like the
But
punk anthology. People wanted volume 2 of the punk anthology so bad. And it's one of our best selling books. It's so rad. But it's like one of those things. Like then we did Cybersync, then we did Shadow, and then we did the team up with Jade Lauder's anthology, and we had all of our own books and projects and other creators sign on at the same time. Where Punk anthology was supposed to be like book 2, and now it's like book 12. You know what I mean? We've had like 8 releases over the past year, with like 4 more coming over the next 6 to 8 months, and it's weird trying to find that. Like I do want to do that. It just I get how it does take time, and you're just like, well, I need to have breathing room too, and let this book, flourish and get out there and get people excited, so that when they come back for volume 2, they'll expect bigger, better, and you'll also learn a few lessons in that period as well too, which is the most important part. Well, speaking of lessons, Willie Dean here, Skullhead Comics, go ahead and check him out because his work is killer. Actually, he just submitted to the horror anthology Jaden and I put together, and is one of the dopest submissions I've seen. So sorry, but Willie Dean here is his question is shooting too high? Doing a 20-page comic every 3 months. Should I be doing shorter stories more often and trying to get more involved in anthologies? That's a very actually great question. And even Ray here is just like giving some explanation on like, do you feel like you're hitting that goal every 3 months? Because if you are, then that's awesome and amazing. But if you aren't and you're feeling guilty about feeling to get bad or guilty about not hitting that goal, dial it back a bit. Personally, I think there's a balance. You know what I mean? I think I think that's a great goal to have and to give yourself. But sometimes doing those shorter stories and those anthologies kind of like give you a way to refresh yourself and give you a way to like expand your brain a little bit. I've noticed they've helped me expand my worlds. And I do Teenage Babylon short stories within anthologies so that like I go back to the world of Teenage Babylon and I kind of understand a little bit more and I didn't waste any time. So it could go back and forth. What are your thoughts about this, gentlemen? We'll go with Rick first.
I think like that's a great output. That's perfect. I mean, there's a whole bunch of different ways you could take it. I mean, you don't have to do that. You could, like you said, the anthologies is a good run, or if you want to do like, because I mean, for like a long time, I'd post Cosmic Cat just as like an image, but after I started like breaking it down like panel by panel, it does it does really well, and I think like there's something there to it for like everybody basically, and like I find myself reading them online and stuff too. I think that's like a big part of it is like look at like what other people like what the customer enjoys or like what you enjoy, you know, like you'll catch yourself like without even being like fully aware of it, like, oh, I like this format, and not without realizing, hey, I could totally like reverse engineer this format for my own benefit too. I think there's like a lot of that out there still, like a lot of untapped stuff that we don't necessarily do, different ways to present it. But I think like networking, I don't know how many people he knows. It says he was in the United Kingdom. So, I mean, there's got to be like a good chunk of people he could link up with out there. That helped me so much. Like once I started meeting people like through Zoom and shit like that, that kind of changed the game for me. And I think it's super important.
Yeah, Alex, what are your thoughts on that question?
Yeah, I think that varied. Well, my first initial thought was like, it depends on if you're writing and drawing the stories, because like for me, I obviously I can't. I'm just writing them, and so like I think that being able to like if I was looking at it, being able to write like that amount would be doable, but I think that there's a huge benefit in doing shorter stories and anthology stories and like flexing narrative muscles type of sense. Like as you were kind of saying, Brandon, it's good to kind of like either explore, establish like stories that you have or worlds that you have or whatever, but also just get your brain working in a bit of a different way. Like I love reading 1-page stories or like 6-page stories or something like that. And I think that there's a lot that you can learn in how to structure that you can then also apply to bigger things. And then also it's just nice too to have like shorter stories lying around or just done or whatever. And so to just have completed something on hand, I think is always good. And so that's like I have a handful of short 6-page horror stories that I wrote forever ago, just because I felt like I needed to write something, and like I have those that are getting like worked on now. And so it's just I think there's a lot of benefit to doing things like that as well.
Yeah, I feel the same. I mean, then you have a bunch of short stories you could then compile into another book. So you've actually pumped out extra work than you would have thought in general, too. Even on a writing schedule that gets difficult. I wanted to finish writing both Teenage Babylon, Fake Your Death by the end of the summer. That's not happening. And so it's just one of those things. You got to figure
Yeah.
out like how it comes out best. Even for you, George, like you're writing Exodus Z. I remember you talking about it was going to be a 3-issue arc. Like how is your writing schedule fitting into like everything else that you're now doing too?
Well, for the most part, Exodus Z issue 2 was already written, and issue 3 was already outlined. I already knew the direction I was gonna go, so I wasn't too worried about it. But going back to what you guys were saying earlier, especially Rick, networking is key. If I didn't network, Comic Unknown wouldn't have existed. I wouldn't have done interviews. I wouldn't have done reviews. I wouldn't have met through those reviews. About 2 or 3 of the stories in the anthology were people I met through those reviews. So networking for me was key. And going to the question about the goals, I try not to enumerate what direction, how much percentage I'm at after XYZ time, because I always have to take into account that we have to expect the unexpected, and there's always going to be delays. There's always going to be advancements. But for Phantasmagoria, I think Phantasmagoria, while I did get the group together, or majority of the group together by ending of last year, I didn't start the actual social media until this year, because there's no point already jumping the gun and already announcing so much stuff when I can't even show you a panel, you know, especially when it's going to be on a crowdfunding campaign like Kickstarter. Kickstarter for us, by the time we finally did the Kickstarter, half the stories were already completed. The other half were somewhere in that range, different portions, different levels. Like maybe one of them was missing lettering, the other one's missing coloring, things like that. So it's just constant communication behind these creative teams, and just always pushing forward. And or if there's ever an issue, trying to figure out, okay, how can we overcome this issue? How can we move forward? How can we continue off and just continue where we left off? Where we did have a quality issue on one of the stories, and I just jumped in. I was like, look, let's do it this way, that way. And at the end of the day, I somehow became the letterer for that story, which it's dipping my toe into something new. That's what I'm saying. I'm always in something new, and it looks good. Like, I liked it, he liked it, and I was like, done. We can't really hold ourselves down and be hitting ourselves in the head because we're trying to produce something and we're not ecstatic about what we're dishing out. Because if you start nitpicking at something, you're never going to move forward. And for example, when it comes to these digital pages, I was listening to the one about drawing manga, that she was talking about how she starts paying attention to specific pixels. And at the end of the day, she was saying at the end, when you print it, it shrinks down. Nobody's going to notice that. So, and I feel the same way. I was looking at one of our pages and I was like, this little thing right here, that we're talking about a huge screen. It almost looks like if I zoomed into an 11:17 poster and I'm looking at something that small, and I'm like, I need to have that resolved. And then I started thinking about it, and I'm like, this is only going to be about 6 inches by 10 inches. And I'm like, nobody's going to notice that. And I like, forget it, keep them moving. And then when you just compile everything together, and you start looking at it and you see the flow, you just get excited and you just look at it. And then I start reading through the pages, and then I'm in page 20 and I realized the error was in page 5. I didn't notice it. So I'm not going to stress over the tiny details, but it's definitely a journey, and it's definitely a lot of things to be excited about, especially doing an anthology. And many of the people in the anthology are new to comic book creating. So it's really cool. It's an exciting journey, and it just keeps pushing forward. And outside of that, the only thing I can say is that there's moments that I'll be posting on social media 1 million times a day, and then like 3 weeks straight, I'm gone. Like, you don't see me. And people have messaged me. This just happened to me maybe a week or two ago. I had 3 different people on the same day asking, yo, you okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. What's up? They're like, you haven't posted anything. I'm like, I haven't had time. Like, it's not even train of thought. I'm with the wife and the baby, and then the other baby coming up, or I've been doing things in the background, or I started lettering something, or just been involved in so many things that social media, while it's very important, man, for me, that's the tough part. That's keeping track, making sure I'm constantly posting. And I think that one for me is the killer. That's probably where I should perform better for the most part. But I've met with so many people through this publishing process where people look out, and everybody eventually runs the same circles. Just one last thing, when it comes to the anthology, these group of 9 different stories were people from different circles. One person would have never communicated with the other. And just by doing this, we have this little group chat. Everybody has now spoken with one another and going back to the networking. And because of A and networking with B, he got a chance to be on podcast C, you know? So it eventually rolls around, and the indie comic community is huge, but at the same time, it's tiny. Because the amount of times I bumped into somebody that I've met through somewhere else, and I see them through there, because XYZ referred to me, I'm like, I'm like, oh yeah, dude, I've known him for like 10 years, man. Like yeah, I'm down. Let's do it. So it's definitely a crazy, fun, but exhausting journey. I
Yeah,
think.
no, hands down, dude. It's and with also Willie, like, whenever we do, it's cool that, I know about your submission and you just joined an anthology and you got approved with the one that we just posted up. We always start group chats with our members too. So, people have started and met and started creating books out of those group chats. And I always find that super exciting when I find out that people that were in, Shadow Anthology, Punk, or, Cybersync are now teaming up for stuff. In fact, I met my artist China Rosemaria through the Punk anthology, and she only like slimly got in because I needed to fill an extra page, and I was like, I know I have some one page submissions and maybe I could fit one in, and I saw hers and I tossed it in, and now we're creating this entire book, and now we're talking about books past that too. So those anthologies are really cool because they just open so many doors that you may not expect, and that's what I love about it. And I guess as publishers as well, it's something that we love doing, is like networking people, putting them together and helping. We're publishing because we're trying to put out more comics and to spread art and to like promote these awesome things, not just our work, but the work of these people that we believe in. And sometimes they're not even like our best friends or our closest friends. There's people that, me and Kai Brown, who we worked together on the Shadow Anthology, we're publishing Soul Catchers and It's Probably Nothing, two other books. We didn't know each other until a year ago when, just like Alex and I met, Mark was like, oh, you're trying to do something here, do an anthology, go talk to this guy. And you just hit it off, and just good networking. Rick and I didn't even know each other. In fact, I think we met last year at San Diego Comic-Con because you were hanging out, you had the booth with Eli, and that was right next to Shelly Bond. And I went there to go see Shelly, and then Mark knew you guys. And so I went and I just like loved your stuff, and I bought a print and some book. I think I always buy stuff off of you. You're like the one creator.
Yeah.
I need to back down from that. Like typically I
Appreciate the
try to buy
support.
it. Yeah, yeah, there you go. Typically I try to buy at least once from every creator, and Rick, it's like every time I see him, I'm like, damn, this is too
Yeah,
cool, dude. Like
you have given me lots of support, and I appreciate it.
definitely. But this kind of wraps up our little panel here. Publishing is a lot. Managing teams is a lot. There's and every publisher approaches things very differently, but also it kind of comes down to the same essence. We love what we do. It drives us crazy. It's tiring. It's stressful, but we also love benefiting all the creators that we're helping out by publishing them, because indie people just sometimes don't get the attention. I mean, not sometimes. Indie people do not get the attention they deserve. And that's why we try to be doing stuff bigger and better. And our CEO, Dan Hill, has just chimed in. CWS should be a publisher publishing only anthologies from the community. I mean, it's a level we are definitely, getting to and talking about in the background. So there's opportunities everywhere. It's just about putting in the work and being consistent, and giving your faith into your fellow creators. And it starts with networking. To be honest, always, you gotta try to find your way out there, even if you're a solo artist, I would say. But for now, we're gonna switch off because we're gonna start our next panel in about 10-15 minutes. Jorge, where can they find your work? What are you up to right now? And is there anything that you want to announce at this moment as well?
Yeah. First of all, comicunknown.com. It's officially active. It's been active this year. We're on Instagram, The Comic Unknown. Somebody took Comic Unknown, so I had to put the on the front. Facebook, Comic Unknown. In Twitter, The Comic Unknown. We are working right now on Phantasmagoria. The book is technically officially complete. Right now, we are going to be printing with Comix Wellspring. Probably within the next week, I'll be sending out the data over to you guys. And the only other announcements at that point would be if anybody swings by our booth. I did make something in there. It's a coupon for the first 10 people to get Exit a Z for free. And there's a general 20% off coupon to the store. They could just check it out, look in there, see what they like, and hopefully they'll enjoy some good heavenly horror zombies attacking angels.
Love it, love it. Rick, where can we find your work, and what else are you going to be up to this year?
Follow me at Doomdazed on Instagram. Follow me on Next Panel Press with a dozen other creators and all of our own original series. You could read them all in there. My next stop is Small Press Expo next month. The month after that, I'll be at LA Comic Con. I'm get to be a guest again there for the 3rd year. And then I have I'm in IC3 next March. I have a couple other things like that I'll announce later on later on down the road once it's like all completely official that I am applying for. But there's 2 more shows that I'll be at that I know I'll be at, but just waiting to post those up later. I'm finishing up getting because like I'm already in the 4th year of Cosmic Cat. I wanted to really like go back to that first year and get it nice and pristine and everything. So I'm right at the very end of inking that up. I'm going to tonight on Spilled Ink. I'll be inking the cover for the year 1 collection. So that'll be like the first, like anybody who's not my friend who's gotten to see it basically. That'll be like the first chance to see that one. And then I'm trying to get that book ready in time for SPX so I could bring that first year with me. So I'm just like grinding nonstop like the last few days.
Well, I guess I'm buying another thing at SPX. Thanks.
Yeah, a lot of sleep at the desk.
Love it, dude.
Yeah. But that's pretty much it. Just after I finish the year 1 of Cosmic Cat, I'm gonna go back to the Power and I will get the last issue out and wrap up that series finally for everyone. Really excited to get that out. But yeah, find me on Instagram.
Nice. Excited to see it, dude. And of course, you can find Alex and I. Check out Listen on Comics, Apollo City Comics, the publishing houses we work directly with, and own Apollo City Comics. So pretty cool. And you get actually, if you want to find us, I'll be at Terrificon next week. Oh man, next week coming up. But that's the fun part too, because then travel. That's it's like going on tour. Always a trip, always a show to take care of. But gentlemen, this has been super insightful. This has been really exciting for a lot of people in the audience asking questions. Thank you guys so much for participating. Rick, I will see you in about an hour and a half for our Spilled Ink session to wrap up today's con. We have one last panel. It's our comic book creation panel. Coming up next, we have a plethora of guests on there. It's going to be our biggest panel so far.
Yeah, this one's, I was just looking at the list. I was like, oh my god, there's so many people here.
We were short and now we're overbooked, so it's fun. It's great. It's awesome. But hey, it's been a very great day. Thank you all so much for tuning in so far. We have one last thing to talk about in our next panel, comic book creation. So we'll see you all there. Thank you so much.
Thank you, dude. Later,
Thank
guys.
you.